Hello, fourth graders. It is time for the final video in our series here about finding variables. We have explored a couple of different areas, but for now, this is where we're going to kind of end. We'll continue a little bit more next year, but for now, we're going to stop here. We're going to this time use division, addition, and subtraction in 2 steps. We're going to use all of the pieces, everything that we've learned up so far to solve these fairly complex equations. All right, let's take a look at our rules of algebra one last time. We know these pretty well by now. There are 2 steps in algebra. We know that step 1 is to isolate the n, get the n or the variable all by itself. And then step 2 is to get down or up to just one of them. We can't have 6 of them. We can't have a fraction of them. They have to be just one, a solid 1. And of course, we know that in order to do this, we're going to use the opposite operation or the inverse operation of whatever is sitting there staring at us. So let's jump right into it. Let's put it all together. Here is an example. I have n divided by 5 plus 7 equals 13. Well, let's start by realizing that this n divided by 5 is not alone. It is with someone else. It's got that plus 7 sitting there, and we don't want that plus 7. We want to get rid of that 7 because it's keeping the n from being by itself. So what do? Well, in order to do that, we know that we have step 1. Step 1 says that we isolate the n's all by themselves. We have a plus 7, so we're going to use the inverse operation. We know the inverse is a takeaway, and we're just going to take away that 7. Let's clean it up a little bit here first. All right, let's take away that 7. And of course, whatever we do to one side, we also do to the other. So while 7 minus 7 is 0, 13 minus 7 is 6. Now, again, we're going to rewrite our equation in this one because this one is, again, fairly complicated. Do not try to be a hero. Don't try to prove your smartness by doing this in your head. It's just silly. It's kind of foolish, actually. These equations can get really complicated, and you're not proving anything to anybody by doing it in your head. Rewrite it. That's how I do it, and I'm pretty good at this stuff. I don't try to do it in my head either. I make sure that I rewrite it. So let's rewrite it. 7 minus 7 is 0. 13 minus 7 is 6. That leaves the n over 5 all by itself. The n divided by 5 is now by itself on the left, and the 6 is by itself on the right. How do we get rid of the divided by 5, the 1/5 that's sitting right there? Well, remember, we're going to do the inverse operation. And remember from our previous ones that this looks fairly similar to what we've been doing. We're just going to multiply in order to get rid of the division. Now, I'm going to do step 2 in order to do that. And I'm actually just going to slide this down here so that I can actually show you what step 2 looks like. Remember that we're going to multiply by the denominator, multiply by that divisor. So since this is 5, we're going to multiply both sides by 5 because 5 over 5, they cancel and they just turn into 1, and 6 times 5, that turns into 30. So we are left with n equals 30. And we can, of course, double check that. Put that 30 right back up at the top. 30 divided by 5 plus 7. 30 divided by 5 is 6. Add 7 to that, and we get 13. So yeah, we were right. All right, let's try one more. One last one. This time I'm going to give you n over 8, n divided by 8, minus 4 equals 2. All right, let's start with step 1. We know we need to get rid of that minus 4. Knowing that it's a minus, we know that we need to do the inverse operation to it. So we're going to add 4. We're going to add 4 to both sides. And of course, negative 4 plus 4, that's 0. And 2 plus 4, that is 6. So that leaves us, when we rewrite our equation, we're going to rewrite it, and we're going to get n divided by 8 equals 6. All right, let's tackle step 2 in order to get rid of that pesky 8 underneath the n, the pesky 8 that is being divided by. And let's slide it down one last time here. And then we are going to multiply. What number are we going to multiply by? We're going to multiply by 8 because 8 over 8 cancels and turns into 1. Those two 8s cancel, leaving with just the n all by itself. And what, of course, is 6 times 8? Well, 6 times 8 is 48. So n equals 48, and we can check that. 48 divided by 8 is 6. 6 take away 4, that's 2. And we've solved that equation. And there you have it, boys and girls. That is the basic 2 steps of algebra. Now you can do it with multiplication, you can do it with division, you can do it with addition and subtraction, and you are really good at math at this point. Not a lot of kids are learning how to do this as well as you are. So I really want you to practice this and get good at it, because it will come in handy next year and the year after. So do your very best on these next problems and have fun.